Hey, what's up, everybody? So coming to you this morning, or today, coming to you today with the announcement that Canelo versus Callum Smith is on. So Saturday, December 19th, main event of a DAZN card. This one is going to be big. It's going to determine the true WBA champion at 168 pounds, super middleweight. And it's going to determine the true #1 fighter at super middleweight. You know, Canelo, back in December of 2018, almost 2 years now, he hasn't fought at 168 since then. But he won a world title in this weight class, knocking out Rocky Fielding in the 3rd round. Rocky Fielding, you know, an upset guy who upset to capture the regular title. And, you know, went in there and Canelo wasted him. You saw the difference there. That was the first of his, what was supposed to be his 11-fight contract with DAZN. And, you know, wasted Rocky Fielding. Then he moved down to middleweight and beat Danny Jacobs in a title unification at middleweight. Then he moved up 2 weight classes to 175 last year against Sergey Kovalev and knocked him out in the 11th round to capture a championship in a 4th weight class. But more and more, Canelo's been wanting to come down to 168 and be the division that he wants to fight at, you know. So now he's going in against who, for me, is the #2 super middleweight in the world right now, and a lot of people would argue the #1. And that's Callum Smith. So, you know, we know Canelo Alvarez. Let's talk about Callum Smith for a minute. For those of you that don't know Callum Smith. This guy won the World Boxing Super Series a couple years ago in 2018. That Super Series started at the end of 2017. Callum Smith came in the 2 seed. Now, 168, when they did this one, this was the first season of the World Boxing Super Series. Cruiserweight had mostly the best fighters from Cruiserweight competed in the tournament, but because of promotions, you know, the PBC not getting involved with the World Boxing Super Series, you know, ESPN Top Rank, you know, the top ranked fighters weren't involved in the World Boxing Super Series. So, you really had, this was a, 168 really had like 3 big names in it. And it was all English fighters. It was George Groves, who was considered the #1 super middleweight in the world. He was the #1 seed going in. And then you had Callum Smith, #2, undefeated, but he hadn't really beaten anybody. And then you had Chris Eubank Jr., who came in coming off a big win over Arthur Abraham, the former longtime world champion. And, you know, it was pretty much like, hey, it's going to be one of these 3 English guys. And Groves and Eubank ended up colliding in the semifinals. And Groves got an impressive decision win over Eubank. Callum Smith, though, was supposed to fight former 2-division champion Jürgen Brähmer. German fighter, southpaw, not big name on a grand scale, but the boxing world, Brähmer's pretty solid fighter. And this was supposed to be Callum Smith kind of, you know, coming out party in the semifinals of the season 1. And, you know, just days before the fight, Brähmer pulled out with an injury. So he had to fight some nobody as a replacement in the semifinals and just got kind of a so-so decision after a so-so decision in the 1st round against a guy with not a big name. So Callum Smith, you know, rolling into the finals, he took on George Groves, and, you know, we just didn't know what we were going to get out of Callum Smith. We didn't know how good he was and, you know, and what he could do. And you know what? It was an even-ass fight, which, no surprise with a guy like Groves. Groves is a guy that likes to fight. But Smith just seemed to be getting a little bit of the better of it because of his height and reach. And in the 7th round, he just landed a fucking wicked left hook on Groves and put Groves down and pretty much retired George Groves. Groves decided to not come back months later, decided to retire. But it was a brutal knockout win. It was one of the best wins of the year in 2018. And, you know, he became the World Boxing Super Series champion and won his first world title, the WBA Super Championship, with that win. But after that, you know, that was impressive. He pretty much became the #1 fighter at 168. You know, a wide open division at the time. Nobody really since then has taken over and made a real threat towards the division. I mean, Canelo beating Rocky Fielding just because of his resume at 160 and now 175, that kind of put him right at number one just based on his resume, but he really hasn't, Canelo hasn't beaten anybody at 168. That's how wide open the division is. Now, Callum Smith, you know, a couple guys have come in and had some nice wins. You had Benavidez beat Anthony Durrell. You had Billy Joe Saunders debuted in the division. But, again, nobody's really beaten each other in this division to claim that top spot, except for Callum Smith knocking out George Groves in the World Boxing Super Series finals. So, you know, a couple years later now, you know, he's only made a couple defenses. He beat, in 2019, he beat former middleweight champion Hassan Nadam, who was blowing up. He destroyed him in only 3 rounds. That was no surprise, though. And then also in 2019, he took on John Ryder, the interim champion, a mandatory fight. He had trouble with Ryder, and he didn't really look at his best. He looked like he came in kind of overconfident, and Ryder ended up giving him a good fight. He ended up winning by wide scores, but it was a lot closer than that. Some people could argue that he lost the fight, but, you know, I didn't have a problem with him winning, but just not by the scores that they gave it to him. I mean, it was a close fight. But Callum Smith, you know, is a very durable, very good fighter. He is. And Canelo cannot overlook him. This guy's tall, you know, he's got length, and he's got decent power. He's not a huge power puncher, but he's a decent power puncher. He can box a little bit. I think Canelo, talent-wise, is overall the more talented fighter, but the fact that he's smaller, the fact that Callum Smith is, you know, is also a very good fighter, this is an interesting matchup right here. Interesting matchup, and it really is going to determine the number one fighter at 168 rolling into 2021. So, you know, I'm very happy with this fight being made. I am. Because, you know, and I'm very happy with Canelo. Canelo choosing to go to DAZN to fight after their contract and they're falling out. That shows that Canelo's not being bitter, that he's thinking about business. You know, Canelo wanted to go to Showtime and fight Caleb Plant. But because they already had a pay-per-view with Spence and Garcia on December 5th, they didn't want to do it for December 19th. So Canelo said, okay, I'm going to go to DAZN and fight Callum Smith. Canelo is putting the differences that he's had with the network, DAZN, he's putting that to the side to be able to fight the best fighters out there. And I give mad respect for that. I do, you know. That shows a professionalism, that shows a class that is really lacking these days, you know. And I'm hoping that people are going to see that in boxing and start, you know, matching up with each other, going to the other networks to fight, you know, really caring about the fight itself and not just, you know, hey, the network, because it's only going to make more money for everybody, you know. And I dig what Canelo's doing here. I don't know how much he's getting paid, but it has to be a good deal. And it's a good opponent. Callum Smith, do not sleep on this guy. He is a very good super middleweight. He's the best fighter in terms of on paper. He's the best fighter that Canelo could fight at this weight class. He is the number 2 fighter in this weight class to Canelo's number 1. You know, and after that you got Danny Jacobs, Benavidez, Caleb Plant. In terms of what they've done, people will argue, well, Benavidez, Caleb Plant's undefeated. Those guys haven't done what Callum Smith has done. And then there's also a little added heat here. Canelo knocked out Callum Smith's brother, Liam Smith. He knocked him out a few years ago to capture the 154-pound title. So, might be a little added thing there between the two. So, very, very good matchup right here. And, you know, this is not, again, I hope people aren't coming into this fight looking at Callum Smith going, oh, this is an easy one for Canelo. I don't know if it's going to be an easy fight. You know, Canelo is the rightful favorite. But I don't know if it's going to be an easy fight. These guys have fought the last couple years. They fought about the same. They've had about the same amount of layoff. Actually, Canelo's going to be a couple weeks longer because he fought early early in November of last year, where Callum Smith fought towards the middle. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Canelo is also defending his pound-for-pound title, in my opinion, and he's doing it against a very good fighter. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's a very good matchup. I'm looking forward to breaking this fight down in a couple weeks and doing the breakdown video for you guys, because it's going to be good. You know, actually, it might be a little over a week from now when I do that. It might be next week. And, you know, my pad, December 19th, is the weekend before my birthday, so I'm probably going to do something at my pad for sure for that one. And I hope everybody comes and, you know, whoever can, you know, who's in the area, wants to come and check it out. But, yeah, that's the early preview. The Canelo versus Callum Smith is on, and I hope you guys are ready. It's going to be a good one for the WBA Super Middleweight Championship at 168 pounds. All right, guys, that's it. True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.